What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Podium Conversations. I don't know why I did it like that. I just felt like doing something a little bit different because, we solo dolo in this joint, and we try to bring a different vibe every single time we hop in front of the mic. So, with no further ado, man, this beat takes me there. I don't know why. So a lot of good stuff to get to today, right? I was able to listen to a little bit of Joe Brady right before I hopped on, kind of getting into some of his impact in the game and some of the ways that he's reacting to some of these questions. It's weird. It's weird. Let me turn this music all the way down. Hopefully you all were able to hear me, nice and clear even through all that. But there's something about the way somebody speaks when they are truly excited about something, and then there's the way they speak when they're trying to pay a compliment that feels obligatory, right? And I think we all know what that looks like. We've seen it happen before. We've done it. But I'm starting to see a little bit of that with Joe Brady. If we have time, we'll get to that. But let's jump right in. I'm going to try to keep these to an hour. We went like 2 hours last time, and it was absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, Spin says, let the McD hate begin. I mean, if that's what you came for, that's what you came for. I can't stop you from, from checking this McD hate out. No, I'm kidding. That's not what this is going to be. But let's get to this thing, man, because we don't have a lot of time. And I need to make sure that I get to comments and get the points out and all that kind of stuff. So let's see what Sean McDermott is talking about today.
Good afternoon. So injury report update here for you. So Cam has a foot and an ankle. He'll miss some time. No word on the timetable exactly right now. We will bring some punters in to take a look at him, and then we'll go from there on that. So. As far as Ed and Matt and Spencer, they're all heading in the right direction. I'll know more as we get through tomorrow and then into Wednesday morning as to their status for this week. We'll probably have to take it one day at a time. And then the guys on IR, again, those decisions will be made at the right time. Conversations will be had. So we'll go forward with that in mind. And then I think that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions on injuries at this point. So
on Ed, just I know it's early and you said it's going to be day by day, but are you hopeful that he can practice?
To be clear, excuse me. To be clear, when Sean is talking about conversations are going to be had, he means the guys that are going to be, have asked to step down for, Ogunjobi and Hoyt when they come back. That's what he meant by conversations.
It's on injuries at this point. So
on Ed, just I know it's early and you said it's going to be day by day, but are you hopeful that he can practice on Wednesday?
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, just have to see where it goes here and just take it one day at a time.
With the guys on injured reserve, Max, Tylen, and Tyler, you mentioned the right time. They're obviously all now eligible to return to the active roster. I don't know. I guess when is the right time for you?
No, you want them all back as soon as possible. You just have to, there's other parts of that conversation though that are important and affect one thing affects another. So.
One player affects another.
Number one is them getting healthy enough to be back. One, and then two is what is the next move, the corresponding move after that.
Along those lines, do you know if any of them are healthy enough to return as soon as this week?
Yeah, I don't have great word on that. Nate's been working through just the day after the game at this point, so we'll connect, I'm sure, later tonight.
Interesting.
Secondary part of that is quick. You do face.
Don't have great word on that. Nate's been corresponding move after that.
Along those lines, do you know if any of them are healthy enough to return as soon as this week?
Yeah, I don't have great word on that. Nate's been working through just the day after the game.
Okay, so there's three things I see here. Let's go through this one more time, and you let me know if you see it or not, but what I'm seeing is as he's being asked the question, there's a gulp, right? The way that his neck and jaw move, there's a gulp, which is usually a sign of anxiety. As he begins to answer the question, he looks away from the person, and it's a static stare, right? So the difference between a static stare and when somebody kind of looks away to try to remember something is there's usually more eye movement because the brain itself is trying to tap into the memory center, and that doesn't look like a static stare. It never does, right? So for there to be a static stare and a look away, it does come off as a little bit of deception there. So that the gulp first, then the look away, and then as he looks back at the reporter, and then there's a long blink and almost a shutting of the window. Then he looks away, right? So we do this a lot when we're in front of people that we don't want to be in front of. We don't want to be in the confrontation, or we're irritated by the person, or we're trying to hide what we think that person can see in our eyes, right? So it'll look like, I'm trying to look like I'm naturally blinking, but I'll blink long like this and look away in kind of that fashion where my blink it doesn't come off as being a natural click. It's more, close, turn, then open, right? So let's play that back one more time and let's take a look at this body language
at this point. So we'll connect, I'm sure, later tonight.
The second as soon as this week.
Yeah, I don't have great word on that. Nate's been working
just a little bit before
that. So
sorry.
Do you know if any of them are healthy enough to return as soon
There's
as
the
this
gulp.
week?
Yeah, I don't have great
Static
word on
stare.
that. Nate's been working through
Just shut the window
after the game at this point. So we'll connect, I'm sure, later tonight.
And the secondary part of that is you do face some tough decisions, not only in terms of just the active roster.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. See, this is the part that makes it hard for me based on what I know. The type of head coach that Sean McDermott is, he's aware of every single thing that's going on in the building because it's by design. He wants it that way, right? When you as a head coach go as far as to hire people or try to convince players to watch other players and see what they're doing just so that you're aware of what they're doing, right? Whether it's something you feel you need to correct or not, you just want to be aware of what these guys are doing. This is the type of culture and behavior that Sean has built into the locker room already. So if he's doing that with the team, don't think for 1 second he doesn't have some kind of idea of people, what's going on in the rest of the building. So the idea that he has no clue what's going on with these injuries, I can tell you that's absolutely wrong, because just from a player standpoint, he has to get some form of initial update on what's going on with injuries, right? There's a report that he gets on a I think it's a daily basis. It's either daily or it's weekly, right? But he gets some form of report of injury updates on all these players. So him saying that he hasn't gotten word, let me get his words right. Let's play that back again.
Along those lines, do you know if any of them are healthy enough to return as soon as this week?
Yeah, I don't have great word on that.
Great word on that. I don't have great word on that. It's an interesting choice of words to use when you're just trying to say, I haven't heard yet. But you can't actually say I haven't heard yet because that would be false. Right? It's these are the types of things that we pay attention to when someone we know is trying to deceive us. But here's a head coach right in front of our face using phrasing that is meaningless. I haven't gotten great word on that yet. What is great word? Definitive word? We got, you know what I'm saying? Like this presents as unnecessary deception. because if he's being transparent without having to be honest, right? Because remember last week I talked about the difference between being honest and being transparent. If he's trying to be transparent, all he's got to say is, I haven't gotten a final word from the medical staff yet, right? Because what does that imply? That implies that he is getting bits and pieces of information, or he is getting some form of update, but maybe he hasn't checked with them today, right? To be able to give a final word on exactly what the timetable is or exactly how far these guys are away from coming back. But for some reason that doesn't come from Sean, and it's not something that is unintentional, right? What he presents is always intentional. It always is. He's one of the most self-conscious head coaches I think I've ever seen in the NFL in terms of how he presents himself, right? But I just, again, the body language, those specific words he used, I'll play it again. It just comes off as deception to me.
Corresponding move after that.
Along those lines, do you know if any of them are healthy enough to return as soon as this week?
Yeah, I don't have great word on that. Nate's been working through just the day after the game at this point, so we'll connect, I'm sure, later tonight.
And the secondary part of that is you do face some tough decisions, not only in terms of just the active roster to make room for those guys, but then also, when the injured players, Ed and Matt, are healthy enough, who's up, who's down. How much have you concerned yourself with that, as opposed to the day-to-day getting ready for the next week's game, because you have these looming decisions here that are pretty big?
Yeah, all part of the job. I mean, it's you want as many of our starters back as.
Hold on, let me get to some of these comments here. It's been going nuts over here. Smith says, the McD hand is resting on the other arm at this time. What does that mean? Spin says, thank you, dangerous. Okay, that's different. Maybe your name is Denny. That'd be a good guess. Spin says, or he's just annoyed with these press conferences and he just wants to be done with it. That's always going to be the thought when we're holding the coach on a pedestal, right? Because the idea is when we see the head coach on a pedestal, or when we see the head coach at a level that we revere, right? I think revere, honor, that type of wording is appropriate here, right? I'm not saying you idolize Sean McDermott, but when you see Sean McDermott as this head coach that came in and rescued the team and broke the drought and all these different things that come with a reverence for his position, for the job he's done and all that kind of stuff, it makes it very easy to see him in a position of, I don't need to be answering these questions. I don't want to answer. Like, at the end of the day, that's what he's getting paid millions of dollars to do. That's part of his job. In the same way that I don't know, that the House Speaker at the White House has to come out and do all kinds of press conferences, or the president himself or herself, whoever it is, 30 years from now, who cares? It's going to be part of their job to do press conferences. It's going to be part of their job to kiss babies and shake hands and smile, right? Is that stuff the actual job description? No, but it's an ancillary part of the process of fulfilling your job duties, or fulfilling the expectation of your position, right? Because when we think of a football head coach, we think just the X's and O's. If he's handling the X's and O's, all this other stuff is nonsense. Not in the NFL, not at the pro level. So while what's going on, Laura? Yeah. Hopefully you got a notification to know that we were doing a live show, but I won't mess with you there. But yeah, Spin. So that's kind of where I'm coming from when I'm watching these press conferences. Is from the standpoint of, like, this is your job. You got to do it. You might as well do it well, Spin also says that's the purpose of press conferences across the league. Teams going to be cooperative, but at the same time giving the least amount of information necessary. So let me ask you this, and you can answer on here or you can not. It doesn't matter. what is the point behind what he said about, and for those of you just joining us, I'll go back to it. We're talking about Sean's body language when he answered this specific question here. It was a question about injuries and how far certain guys are away from being ready to come in and play now that they're able to come off of IR, right? And for Sean to give the response of, I haven't, let me just play it instead of trying to quote this dude.
Ed and Matt are healthy enough. Who's up? You do face some tough decisions, not only.
Nate's been working through.
Along those lines, do you know if any of them are healthy enough to return as soon as this week?
Yeah, I don't have great word on that. Nate's been working through.
So again, to say I don't have great word on that, it's not hurting his stance of not giving up a lot of information if he says I haven't gotten the final word yet on these guys, right? But to say something as ambiguous as I haven't gotten great word on that yet, you combine that with the body language that speaks deception and anxiety, and you've got something that says to me anyway, I'm nervous about what the truth is or what the perception of the truth is. So I don't want to give you that information or any indications or inferences of the actual truth, right? So for somebody like me who is preferential to the truth and is constantly seeking the truth in a lot of these instances, it's kind of hard for me to just accept it, right? I was about to say swallow, but I ain't about to give y'all that gratification. Anyway, the idea here is, even if he doesn't want to give a lot of information, what information is he giving if he says, well, I haven't gotten the final word today on that yet from the medical staff? Because the inference, as I said before, the inference of saying that is, I do get updates, which I know specifically, and I have informed you guys, just a few minutes ago, that these coaches do get regular updates on these players as they come available. And most of the time it's a week to week update, or this player is working on this, or this player is still working through this, or this player is still in this position. It may be a static report of, nothing has changed, but it's still a report, right? So to say you haven't gotten great word on that and to be intentionally ambiguous like that, it serves no purpose and it hides nothing realistically, because the phrasing means nothing. So it's like you're giving me, you bring me a box that has wrapping paper wrapped all over it and a ribbon on it on my birthday, and there's no actual gift in it, but you're giving me the box so that everybody sees you giving me a present. And nobody can say that you didn't give me a present, even though there's actually nothing in the box. Like, that's the equivalent of what Sean is doing here. And I think for people to kind of take the stance of, oh, well, he just doesn't want to answer the question like that, then do you even listen to the press conferences for any information, for any real information? Because this is where we're supposed to be able to get it. This is where the media is supposed to be able to get updates and to get as much information as they possibly can, so that they can understand, more of what's going on with the team. And it's interesting. It's interesting because this is a team that we invest millions of dollars on, and this is a point that I wanted to bring up. And I'm glad I'm glad I actually went through this whole thought process again, because I just remembered. So, did anybody watch the Broncos game last night? If you watched the Broncos game last night, you would have heard one of the announcers say that the Broncos are going to be building a fully privately funded football stadium for the Broncos. And I heard that, and my head almost spun 360 degrees on my shoulders. Like, I couldn't believe it when I heard that, because you never hear that in the NFL. You never hear of a fully privately funded stadium being built by an owner. And here we have the Broncos about to do it. They're in talks of the plans for the building, what they what they wanted to look like, where they want to put it and all that kind of stuff. All the same stuff that we went through, but the owners of the team are going to pay for it, right? Which brings me to the reason I brought that up in the first place, which is me having an expectation of information from a head coach that I'm paying for whether I want to or not, right? At the end of the day, my tax money is going towards that stadium, whether I want it to or not, whether I think, the stadium deserves that tax money or not, right? We're paying for, if I'm not mistaken, at least 80% of the stadium. And then I hear about other owners in Denver, and I get they're an ownership group, but we got threats. You know what I'm saying? When it came time to build the stadium, it's either gonna come out of tax dollars or we gonna move down to Austin, and we gonna start over down in Austin. And I'm looking at this like, so not only can I not ask you pointed questions and try to get information, or I'm gonna get blackballed, or the other option being, I just accept status quo. You know what I'm saying? Or I can have the expectation of you answering these questions because I'm paying you all this money. I don't understand how we constantly forget that. Like it's the equivalent of Spin going to City Hall, right? He goes to City Hall where the mayor is at, and he wants to ask the mayor a question man to man, straight up. Like, why'd you come up with this policy? Why'd you do this? And the mayor gives this kind of body language and says, well, I haven't gotten great word from, some of my other, co-workers on that issue yet. He's supposed to. He was put in office by you or not, if you didn't vote for him, but still part of his job is to listen to the people. See, again, this mentality, if that's your mindset, then politicians are enjoying the fact that you don't care, or they're enjoying the fact that you think that they don't have to listen to you, right? It's a disempowerment, right? Most of what Sean is doing with the Buffalo Bills is a disempowerment of the player. It's an empowerment of coaches, 100%. Like I said on the show yesterday, it's about coach empowerment. I get it, but that's not the NFL. The NFL is about the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and the O's. Every player in the league, every analyst that you hear talk about the NFL, they all say the same thing: head coaches and players. It ain't just players. It's not the X's and O's. It's the Jimmies and the Joes in the NFL. That's what it is. So this idea that we shouldn't have an expectation to get some kind of information at all from our head coach, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Marino's Legacy, what's going on? Says, is it rational to think the Bills defense is going through a transition similar to KC in 22 with so many new / young pieces on defense? It is a rational thought. The only contention I have with that is we've been dealing with the same issues schematically since Sean has been here. And I think the only year, and I can probably go look at this now. But let me see if NFL.com will give it to us. Let's go back to 2017, and I want to see where the Bills were back then, defensively. So the Bills defensively allowed a completion percentage of 64.6%. They allowed 6.7 yards per attempt. That year they gave up 3,844 yards, 14 touchdowns, and they acquired or stole 18 interceptions. They gave up 199 first downs. They gave up 3 plays of 40+ yards, and they got 27 sacks. Right? So let's fast forward to 2021, where they had the number 1 defense, and see where they are. Right? We're going to go to the best of Sean McDermott. Okay. Defensively. All right. So defensively, they gave up a completion percentage of 56%. Their yards per attempt given up was 5.8. They gave up 3,047 yards. They allowed 12 touchdowns, and they got 19 interceptions. So one more interception. They gave up 138 first downs, and they allowed 6 plays of 40+ yards. They also got 42 sacks, though. That's probably what helped them get to number 1 overall, right? So compare those numbers. Let's go back to 2017 when he first got there. Completion percentage of 64.6. So 64.6 to 56, right? And then let me see, 3,047 yards given up, whereas before they gave up 3,800 yards. They gave up 2 less touchdowns in 2021. They gave up about 41 less first downs. They gave up three more 40+ yard plays in 2021, and they doubled their sacks. A little less than doubled, right? Because they had 27 sacks in 2017. So let's go to the rushing. So when Sean first gets there, they gave up 1,994 yards. They gave up 4.3 yards per carry. Let's just stop there and let's go to 2021 when they had the number 1 defense. Okay. So slightly less on the yards per carry. Let me just double check this on the yardage. So the yardage, they gave up 1994 in 2017. In 2021, they gave up 1866. Right? So they in 2021 rather, they gave up 0.2 less yards per carry than 2017 when Sean first took over. So the run game is a little more consistent than what they did in the pass game. Pass game got significantly better. They had significantly more sacks. Completion percentage went way down. It was like 64, went down to 56 in 2021. But the yardage only went down by about 100, and the yards per carry went down by 0.2. Touchdowns. How many touchdowns did they give up in the run game in 2017? 2017, they gave up 22 touchdowns. That went down to 19 in 2021. Okay. Rushes of 20+ yards or more in 2021, they gave up just 12. In 2017, they gave up 14. Not that big of a difference. Rushes of 40+ yards in 2017, they only gave up 3. In 2021, they gave up 4. So they actually gave up 1 more, right? So the point I'm trying to make with all this is the consistency in the scheme and the flaws that the scheme has right now have been pretty consistent. I think what we benefited from greatly was the signings of Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. When you have a defense that can be strong up the middle, and you have your Matt Milano and your Tremaine Edmonds, and then you have your Jordan Poyer and your Micah Hyde, and I think at that point in time we had, man, who did we have on at defensive tackle when we first got Poyer and Hyde? Was Jordan Phillips here yet at that point? We had some nondescript guys back then because they had gotten rid of Marcel Darius after 2017. So I'm not even sure who they had a defensive tackle, but for the most part, behind the defensive line, the spine of our defense was great. And I think that contributed a lot, especially in the pass game. It made us very strong in the pass game, but at the same time, it led to the same consistency of issues in the run game, right? You had a defensive line that wasn't great at stopping the run. Kyle Williams, perfect, thank you, Kyle Williams, and then probably Harrison Phillips. I think Harrison Phillips had just gotten drafted around that time too, if I'm not mistaken. And there's one other person I'm probably forgetting too. Thank you, Spin. But yeah, so I think when we're thinking logically about the issues with the defense, we have to think about how to overcome the flaws in the scheme, the scheme itself, and it takes players to do that. To be perfectly honest, that's if you're not going to change the scheme, then you've got to change the type of players that you put in it. You're gonna have to start getting like uber athletic guys like Deion Walker, like TJ Sanders, like Landon Jackson, like Max Hairston. Like you're gonna have to start getting uber athletic guys to execute the system. Otherwise, you're gonna continue to deal with the same issues, game in and game out. No defensive scheme is going to, stop every single offensive play. That's just the natural order of the NFL right now is on any given play. And me and Daniel were talking to Damaris about this yesterday, and he said specifically, like on any given play, there's always going to be somebody open. That's the way NFL and offenses are designed, right? So you can't have the expectation, as a defense that we're just going to shut the offense down, right? We see some defenses do that, but most of the time that's based on matchups. That's based on having so many good players at so many different positions that the offense just cannot function properly because they don't have enough. They don't have enough guys that can beat the man across from them once the ball is snapped. So what does that say? Well, that says a lot when you think about the importance of the Jimmies and the Joes versus the X's and the O's. The science speaks for itself. I don't take my word for it. You know what I mean? Go listen to the folk on TV that talk about it. The people that get paid to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving it to you for free. So, yeah, but again, don't think that it's not a logical thought. It's a hopeful thought. It's a hopeful thought that it's something that can be addressed with guys that we have in house. And I have that hope too. I have that hope for Jordan Hancock. I have that hope for Dorian Strong. I have that hope for Dorian Williams and some of these other young guys that have shown promise. But it's just a matter of, waiting to see. So, all right, it's 8:34 already. We haven't even gotten through half of this press conference. I got to get rolling. Here we go.
Just the day after the game at this point. So we'll connect, I'm sure, later tonight.
And the secondary part of that is you do face some tough decisions, not only in terms of just the active roster to make room for those guys, but then also, when the injured players, Ed and Matt, are healthy enough, who's up, who's down. How much have you concerned yourself with that, as opposed to the day-to-day getting ready for the next week's game? Because you have these looming decisions here that are pretty big.
Yeah, all part of the job. I mean, it's you want as many of our starters back as possible. You want everyone as healthy as possible. You want them back too. It's obviously we have limits on the active, and then obviously limits on the game day roster as well. So that's part of the ebbs and flows of the season in terms of injuries and getting players back, but also part of trying to figure out what our best 11 are, what our best 22, whatever it is. So it's trying to continue to adjust and tweak and get it to where we're playing our best football.
How would you assess your defense's performance facing these mobile quarterbacks in terms of not giving them too much time to throw and containing them in the run game?
Yeah, in the quarterback run game, or what are you referring to?
Quarterback run game.
Design run or scrambles? Both. Yeah. it's a new trend in the NFL, or evolving trend, I should say. And I thought yesterday we did a good job when they were in the drop back game. But there were times where we gave them some space up the middle, in particular in the pocket, and we call it a quarterback trap. So you got 4 rushers or sometimes 5, and you try and build a trap, and that trap has different kind of cornerstones to it. We didn't always execute that, in particular early in the game.
Definitely
but
not.
I thought it got better as the game went on, and
Fair.
I was encouraged by what I saw at the end in terms of the way they closed the game out in the drop back game, and the defense I thought had 4 or 5 really tough starting field positions to deal with yesterday, and they handled them extremely well.
You mentioned after the game that you thought the tackling probably could have been better at times. Did that show up in your film review as well?
Yep. And that's something that you're always chasing, the perfect game in terms of tackling. It's never going to be perfect, but we've got to do a better job. That first touchdown run, in fact, was not anywhere near the way we're capable and want to tackle. So that's a standard that needs to continually be met week in and week out. It's a base fundamental of playing good defense and playing good special teams.
Everybody talks about red zone challenges or offenses challenged in the red zone and how things get tighter. What are the challenges of being backed up inside your own 15 and 10 and the struggles that the offense seemed to have, unable to flip the field?
Well, that was a tough couple of series there. And when I mentioned complementary football, and at halftime I mentioned to the team playing as a team, and one side feeding the other. We got the takeaway there before half, and then we end up backed up, and we got to get ourselves out of there. So it wasn't a good series or two for us right there. And when you're punting the ball back, or we turned the ball over one time there too, it makes for tough sledding for the defense. So we got to work better in concert with one another and in a more complementary way.
How comfortable are you with James Cook's increased usage and snap counts, and that he can hold up to that demand and workload?
Yeah, James is off to a good start. We know what he can do, and it's never one player, especially when it comes to the running back position. So we've got to continue to get all 3 guys in the fold and helping us.
What's led to Ray maybe not being as involved early on, Ray Davis?
Well, I think, again, it's probably true of any position. You see where you're at, you see who's playing well, and it's a natural human nature thing as a coach to say, hey, in this case, James is rolling, we keep going. But there is, everything in moderation too, as well as healthy. So, it's just about, trying to improve our team every week, trying to win one game, and you go back to practice and how are we practicing and who's executing and who's being.
Man, just say he ain't running good, man. Just say, just say he ain't running good. Yeah, you're right, Laura. They are asking good questions, and I got to be honest. This is one of the better press conferences I've seen. Sean give, and it might be due to the questions being asked. I mean, usually it's just those, fluff kind of questions of, what'd you think of your secondary today? They look good out there. Like, so what? Ask some real questions. But he was honest. He was honest about the tackling. He's honest. The thing with Ray Davis though, and I think he's trying to dance around a little bit, to be nice, right? And I respect it. But Ray Davis is not. He's not seeing the game right now. He's not seeing it the way he needs to see it. And I mean, truth be told, last season, I think there were some things that were simplified for him, right? Just in terms of, the blocking scheme and stuff like that. And you look at some of the blocking schemes that he's had to run behind this year, they've asked him to run behind more zone stuff now. And last year it was whenever he was in, all power scheme. Whenever Cook was in, all zone scheme, right? Like majority for Cook. There was some power stuff that Cook ran too, but whenever you saw Cook going off last year, it was all zone. This year you see Cook going off on zone and power schemes. But with Davis, he don't have the vision for zone right now. He don't. It's got to be like the type of power runs that he needs are one cut go. You know what I'm saying? It can't be, run a zone, analyze. It's like, no, this hole needs to be opened up, period. Here's where the cut is. That's where you go. Right. But that'll come with time. I think that'll come with time. Again, he's playing behind, one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. And I don't think that this is going to be a situation anymore where, yeah, right, exactly. Laura said, yeah, Cook has vision and hits that hole. Davis just hits a wall of defenders every time. Yeah. Spinner says Davis not reading the holes correctly in the limited snaps he gets. Yeah, exactly. Nate says Ray is tough. He ain't talented. Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is I think our offensive line is good enough where if they had to go power, like let's just say, and God forbid, you knock on wood, James Cook gets hurt. If it had to be a combination of Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, I think the offensive line is good enough to run power schemes and get those guys, the space they need to make an impact, right? And the other good thing too is we don't have to live with the run game. Like our quarterback is so good that the run game is icing on the cake. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's there just to make his life easier. It's like, here, yeah, I know you don't need this, Bentley, but it's nice to have one. You know what I mean? Yeah, Davis got Zach Moss vision, but you know what though? For fantasy purposes, the last couple of years, Zach Moss been doing it wherever he was at, outside of Buffalo, right? So to me, that kind of plays into this theory of that I have, which is the Bills are always trying to fit players into what they think the player should do, not necessarily what the player is absolutely best at, right? Whether that comes back to bite him, I mean, I think the Zach Moss thing and the fact that Zach Moss is not on the team now, I'm not sure why. So I don't want to bash Zach Moss for not being on the team now. But every time that we saw Zach Moss on a different team, when he went to the Colts and he got his opportunity to started balling. When he went to the Bengals, got an opportunity to started balling. Then he got hurt, right? And then that's when Chase Brown started getting all the carries. So again, it's a matter of doing what it is that your players do best. But if you're in a system and you're in a culture where it's about the coach, you're going to have what you have now, which is, we will decide where guys go. We will decide what players do. We will decide the roles of players. Snake Oil saying, oh, you got burnt on. Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. Last year you got burned heavy on Moss. Sorry. Spin says our line wasn't as good with Moss. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Even though I mean the numbers aren't significantly different from the offensive line play with Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator than where they are even now, right? And if you look at pass blocking, if you look at the holes that got opened up, yards before contact, I mean, James Cook played behind that offensive line too, and the yards before contact are eerily similar. They're not that far apart, right? So what that means for those of you that don't know, yards before contact, that gives you a clear indication of how good the offensive line is at opening up gaping holes for the running back to run through, right? So last year, right, you could look at what the Eagles were doing with Saquon Barkley. Yards before contact was enormous for Barkley. Like you weren't touching him, right? Somebody pulling that stuff back there. Anyway, so what's going on, Lynn? I'm glad a lot of y'all got that bell on, man. Yeah, we on tonight though. We on. Let's get to the rest of this press conference though.
Detailed, and not that Ray isn't. This is not specific to Ray. But it's just about, hey, are we doing the right things that are leading us up to game time there? And then when you get your chances in the game, you got to perform. And James has done that.
Is it fair to say that it's more about what James is doing than necessarily what Ray or Ty isn't?
Yeah, I mean, James is off to a great start, right? So it's that to a certain extent, but it's also just overall, hey, how can we keep everything in moderation so that James can stay healthy the whole season? I think that's important to know too as well.
That was a very transparent answer. I am impressed. He didn't want to say more, but he still said more without saying more. But he was very clear. Like, yes, a lot of this has to do with the fact that James Cook is so damn good. At the same time, we still got to give him a rest. We got to take some of those steps away because we don't want to run him into the ground. We still got the playoffs. So I'm very impressed with that answer. Great job.
Changes in your return personnel. Did you get some of what you were hoping to get out of that with those changes, or
yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think some were, some weren't. And there's other. It's not always just the returner, right? There's blocking that goes into it, and just sheer number of opportunities as well. So we looked at that this morning, and we'll continue to talk about it, I think, in the next, in the next, 24, 48 hours, and then probably through the week here.
Having Dorian come in for Trey on those couple series, how did you think that went? And is that something you anticipate giving him more opportunities like that moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain level of, adjusting, and then there's a certain level of, hey, let a player roll, right, too, because I'm not a big fan of rotating or.
So to be clear, I want you guys to look at this because he's doing a lot of this right now. I'll play the question again and just watch his eyes, right? Because when I talked earlier in this episode about the static stare and purposely trying not to make eye contact but look like you're thinking, you know what I mean? Like I know you're over here, but I need to look over here for a second because it looks like I'm trying to have depth of thought, or I'm trying to tap into the information necessary to answer the question. So I'm going to give you the static, the static stare, but look at what he's doing now with his eyes, where they never stay still. They're kind of constantly moving around. That's what it looks like when the brain is searching information, is searching memory, is searching I already said it, information, right? So the idea here is to understand the difference when we see it, so that we know when there's some kind of, all right, you being deceptive about something. You know what I'm saying? There's something going on. I body language is never going to tell you exactly what it is, but it'll tell you if that person is trying not to give you everything, right? So check this out.
Those couple series, how did you think that went? And is that something you anticipate giving him more opportunities like that moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain level of
They're moving,
adjusting, and then there's a certain level of, hey, let a player roll, right, too, because I'm not a big fan. He
didn't shut the window on her. He didn't do that long blink,
or the two quarterback systems and whatnot that happened. I'm not a big fan of that. I would not want to be in that situation. So it's all about us, again, trying to get a young guy some reps and see how he does and how that experience helps him and helps us subsequently. So it wasn't about what Trey did or didn't do. It was more about, like I just said, with respect to a young player there.
How did you think Dorian?
I thought he played a real solid game. Yeah.
See the end of or watch any of the Packers Cowboys game last night?
A little bit. I'd be lying if I told you I stayed up to watch the end of it. It's past my bedtime.
I wanted to ask because it was such a thrilling game, high scoring game, and to end in a tie.
Yeah.
And with what you've done on the competition committee, what are your thoughts on overtime and just the ties and what can be done or should be done?
Yeah, I mean, you remember going out when you're in the neighborhood and you're playing, you never want to end in a tie, right? When you're growing up. I mean, raise your hand if you liked ending in a tie growing up, right? So nobody. So, but I do think there's an element of, hey, you played it through, and this is a regular season. It's not that way, obviously, in the playoffs for all the right reasons, and so there is an element of player safety involved in that, I think, too, from the standpoint of getting ready for the next game. And when you play a certain duration and you end in a tie, then sometimes that can work in your favor. So,
Do you think the college system could work in the NFL?
I don't know. That's probably a longer conversation than we have time for, Tim, really. But I do like the fact that there's a lot of overlapping rules between college and pro. There are some that are different in this case, like overtime, but they have their reasons, and we do too.
There was a lot of talk about Dalton Kincaid and how he approached the offseason after inconsistencies last year. How have you seen him respond, especially now, that we're 4 weeks into the season, what he's producing?
Yeah. I think he's had a good start to this season. I really do. Yesterday's touchdown in the fourth quarter was a big one for us, obviously. And every week he's just set on improving, and I love that about him.
Sean, kind of coming off of that point, another guy, Cole, I know the big play yesterday, but getting up to that point too, just how did you kind of grade where he's been over the past couple of weeks and just his growth that you're seeing from him?
Yeah, every week. It's I think yesterday was a great moment for Cole, great moment for our team as well. Don't get me wrong, but when you have a young player that, you guys know it, you've questioned him, and he got off to a little bit of a rocky start, but he has stayed focused and disciplined, and he's worked his butt off, and worked alongside of Coach Dana, and they've done a great job. And Cole's play has ratcheted up each week, preseason and now in the regular season. So, which with still a lot of the journey ahead of him in this young career that he's in. So,
see, that's how I know that's a Sean pick. I mean, he was asked about Dalton Kincaid. He was asked about James Cook. Both of these players playing significantly better than Cole Bishop, and no real gestures, but he gave us the assertive. This is what you need to believe. He gave us the president thumb, basically. It's like, this is what you need to believe about this player. This is, you know what I mean? Like, it's everything short of like pointing like this at us and asserting, his assessment. And look, he's supposed to like the guy. It's the guy he picked. I'm not saying, he shouldn't be, doing this for his guy, but I'm just trying to point out Cole Bishop. It doesn't come across as though Cole Bishop earned the job. And this is a head coach that takes this approach every single year. That guys got to come in and they got to earn it. And meanwhile, this dude has been hurt both off seasons, and yet none of the guys that you have shown an ability to come in and do the same job that Cole Bishop has. None in the last 2 years. Like, not Mike Edwards. You gave it to Damar Hamlin because you felt like you had to, because Cole Bishop was just hurt so much, right? But as soon as as soon as Cole Bishop was healthy, he was right back in there. Like, you gave Cole Bishop the starting job last year. So it's baffling to me how Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop have a job when they didn't beat anybody to get it. That's the part that drives me nuts with these guys. Let me get to this question real quick. Laura says, I know you asked Keys, but what is your solution to not overworking Jimbo? I don't know if you said. So the solution is essentially what they're doing now. I mean, James Cook is still on pace to get more carries, this year than I would say his first 2 years combined, right? And the idea of him taking that many carries this season don't seem that daunting when you keep in mind that he's always been a third down back, a change of pace back, even in college at Georgia. So it's not like it would be, such a huge adjustment. I mean, if anything, he would probably love to have that. But the way to, I guess, give James Cook, breathers is to do what they're doing now, right? Even though we know James Cook, can be a great third down back, just take him off the field on thirds. Obvious passing situations, don't force him to be out there trying to, shut down linebackers and block linebackers and possibly have offensive linemen being pushed into him and dropping on him and all that kind of stuff. That's really how you can protect them and also give him a breather at the same time. No, I agree. DeMar Hamlin couldn't make that pick. I don't doubt that, but that's not saying a lot at the same time, right? Again, the play itself shouldn't have been called. They had been running the ball. Key said this. They've been running the ball up our guts all game long, and you get down the field to that part. On like what? 5, I think they were like 5, 6, 5-6 yards away, and you run the Philly special. Like, you want your wide receiver to throw it when your quarterback has been balling, your running back has been balling. You gonna put it in the hands of your receiver to make a pass? Nah. For that Philly special in that positioning, anyways, the pass was too low. That's how Cole was able to get over there. Like, think about it. If the pass is higher and leading the quarterback further into the end zone, the quarterback had space. He had space to continue to back up if the pass was thrown with a little more arc to the point where nobody be able to get it. Like, Cole Bishop would have had to have gone and tried to run to the quarterback with his back turned to the ball and try to play the body, right? And maybe smack the ball out of the hands as soon as the quarterback catches it or something like that. He would have been way more out of position than he even was, trying to recover and get the interception. So it's not that the interception was great. It was a bad play, and it was a really bad pass. And again, we're not seeing Cole Bishop out there doing things that DeMar is completely incapable of doing. I think DeMar just plays not to lose his position. Like, his way of handling his business is, I'm just not going to give somebody a reason to cut me. And so he doesn't get cut. He keeps getting brought back, because the coaches feel like they can trust him. If they need him in a jam, he can be there in a jam. He's not the ideal guy, but he's there in a jam. Three is a nice player for the system. The only plays he makes are gifts from the opponent. Yeah. Right. That's kind of my point. The Saints got fancy and they paid for it. Right. I'm not gonna sit here and say, man, Bishop stole that. That was an awesome play. Like, realistically, the play that the rookie for the Saints made on that arm pump by Josh, that was a much bigger play. Coming from where he was coming from, to get into position to not have pass interference called on him, to be right at the spot where the ball was. That boy a hawk, man. That boy a hawk. So was the QB Bishop's responsibility because didn't he have to come across the field? Well, technically that's Bishop's side anyway, right? He plays that what traditionally is known as the strong side safety. So yeah, that would have been his guy. Keys made me do homework on DeMar. He's adequate depth, not stellar. Right. That's the idea. Man, we at 9:00. How much time do we have left in this press conference? We have 5 minutes. All right. I think I can do that. Y'all gotta stop interrupting me. I'm just playing. Let's get to it.
His teammates have stood by him and supported him, and his rapport with T-Rap is really good. And it was just great to see him make a play like that. I mean, that was a big time play and a big time moment of the game. And those are the plays, quite honestly, we need to be made. And he made it.
Can you
mentioned that he had an interception in practice this week where he went to return it, and that helped him know what to do based off the situation on Sunday. I know there was a penalty that changed it, but just how satisfying is that to know, like, okay, what we're doing in practice is translating directly to the game for a young player?
Well, you hope that that's the goal for practice, you know, that we, as much as possible, you know, as a coach, when you lay out the schedule, you're like, how much of this applies to real life on game day? And that's one example. And the way he attacked the ball in practice was a different type of throw, but the way he attacked the one in the game, you do see the application. And when you get that, that's why you practice, right? It's not for 2 hours out there just to, you know, wear the players out. It's for 2 hours of true direct application to game day.
Second last drive for the Saints on offense, you went with Shaq Thompson instead of Dorian, who played most of the game. What went into that decision? And then Shaq in general, I mean, on that series, he made a really big play. I think it was on a 2nd and 10.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see from him when he was in the game?
Yeah, football player. He's a football player. He plays the position the way it's meant to be played. And I think a lot of our younger linebackers just watch him how he plays the position, and they'll learn.
So was it just a decision, hey, let's get him on the field and see what it looks like? Was it anything that Dorian was doing?
No, it wasn't anything Dorian was doing wrong. It was just more at that moment when we felt like, and I think Dorian had a little bump at that point as well. So I think it was availability as well baked into that.
What did you see from Vandermark yesterday stepping in for Spencer?
Yeah, he's got big shoes to fill. No pun intended on that, but you know, Vandy's done that in the past though, and he's held his own. He's done a good job. I mean, you think about where he's come from and the growth that he's made and his development over the years being here, and you know, he's just another guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder, and I think the cool part about it is no challenge is too big for him, and he takes those challenges head on, and that was not an easy matchup for anybody, and you know, he wasn't going to back down, which I love that about him.
Can you kind of pinpoint why defense doesn't have the same explosive plays in the run game with like TFLs that you're accustomed to having here?
Give me more specific what you're asking about, and
So
your information, please.
So NFL Next Gen stats. So usually,
Thank you for stating that.
Usually you're near the top of the league in run stuff percentage, but this year it's kind of near the bottom. Is there any specific reason that you can pinpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really is. I haven't uncovered that stat to this point, but it's good to know. You know, just overall, I would say that some of that's, you know, you know, maybe some of our structures and how we're playing things this year compared to last, but it's also still early in the season, I would say. So I thought yesterday there was times where we played really good run defense, and then there was times where we didn't, and that usually starts with being in our gaps. And you guys have heard me talk about that before. So you know, that's something we have to continually work on, and among other things, fundamentally as well. So, you know, like I said, I thought there were times defensively where you look at third down, and that was a big question last week. Third down was better this week. You look, and if you combine third and fourth down, it was pretty impressive, except for some short yard situations there. And then red zone, I think they were 50%, and Cole made the big play, and we made a big stop on our defense made a big stop in the 2-point play, which is a big play for us. There's some other things we got to get shored up though, which is what you're alluding to.
We're a quarter through the season.
Really quick, I need to go back. I don't know what it is, but it just the way that he asked for the reporter's information and his reaction to that, as if to say, yes, that's where I thought you were getting it from. You know, like, all right, I can disregard that. I'm not really sure, you know, where that comes from, right? It's almost as if there's some form of lack of respect for where we get our information from, right? Like it's so vastly different from where he's going to get his information from. And look, we don't have access to the same statisticians that the team would have that gives them, you know, all of the advanced analytics that they would, you know, think to look for, right? All we record is what we can think to record. is what we see on the field, right? But they could be looking for a numerous amount of things that we would never even think to put stats to. And maybe that could be where Sean is kind of expressing that little burst of what seems like arrogance to me. But I'll try to be a little understanding on at this point and cut him a little bit of slack. But it just something about his reaction there. Let me just go back
about that before. So
a little bit further.
It's kind of near the bottom. Is there any specific reason that you can pinpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really is. I haven't uncovered that stat to this point, but it's good to know.
NFL Next Gen stats. So usually,
Thank you for stating that. It's too big for him, and he takes those challenges head on, and that was not an easy matchup for anybody, and he wasn't going to back down, which I love that about him.
can you kind of pinpoint why defense doesn't have the same explosive plays in the run game with like TFLs that you're accustomed to having here?
Give me more specific what you're asking about, and
So
your information, please.
So NFL Next Gen stats. So usually,
Thank you for stating that.
Usually, you're
see that little, you know what I'm saying? Like as if that exposed the reporter. You know what I'm saying? As if that kind of discredited a little bit of what the reporter was talking about. Like that, the little smirk and the, thank you for stating that. Like, what? Who cares where he got it from? You don't have a bunch of tackles for loss. What stat sheet are you looking at that's telling you got it and it's telling him the exact opposite? If that's the case, that would explain why this team has been terrible at stopping the run for 9 years. That would explain all of it. If you getting your stats from a completely different place than I'm getting my stats, and my stats is telling me you ain't getting no tackles for loss, then you come at me with state your information. Oh, NFL Next Gen stats. Yeah, thank you for stating that. Yeah, thank you for stating that. Like, I hope that's not the case. But it seems like it might be. That's crazy to me. All right, here we go.
top of the league in run stuff percentage, but this year it's kind of near the bottom. Is there any specific reason that you can pinpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really is. I haven't uncovered that stat to this point, but it's good to know. Just overall, I would say that some of that's maybe some of our structures and how we're playing things this year compared to last, but it's also still early in the season, I would say. So I thought yesterday there was times where we played really good run defense, and then there was times where we didn't, and that usually starts with being in our gaps. And you guys have heard me talk about that before. So, that's something we have to continually work on, and among other things, fundamentally as well. So, like I said, I thought there were times defensively where you look at third down, and that was a big question last week. Third down was better this week. And if you combine third and fourth down, it was pretty impressive, except for some short yard situations.
Why do we have to do that?
Red zone.
Why do we have to combine stuff in order for things to look good? It's the same thing as what Brandon Bean was saying earlier this season. Well, how did he say it? If you look at the last 8 games of the season, or if you look at the team this way, we were number 1 in scoring. Like, you weren't that way the whole season. You definitely weren't that way the whole season. You weren't number 1 in scoring all season. Like, if you include the playoffs, I think is what he said. If you include the playoffs, we were the number 1 score. We were the number 1 scoring team in the league. We scored the most points. Why do we have to do this kind of stuff? Why can't you just be great in one single category? Well, if you combine the third and fourth down, we were actually pretty good in at stopping the run. Why do we have to go to these lengths to try and put positive spins on things so that you can keep your job? Like, again, transparency is all I'm asking for. I just happen to be honest about this particular situation with regards to his choice of words. it just does anybody else but me ever get to a point where it's more about respect than it is the accomplishment, right? Does anybody get to a point where, yeah, the wins are nice, but man, I need these wins to be so dominant that everybody is looking at everything about this team and saying, yo, y'all got it. I can't see nobody beating y'all. I can't see nobody beat. I've never heard anybody say that about us in the entire time that Sean McDermott has been here. I've never heard anybody say that. And it's not to dismiss everything that Sean has accomplished since being here, but I think the idea is, okay, we've done enough winning. Let's get to the next level. Let's get to that level of where the Eagles were or where the Chiefs are, where it's like, when you go to play either of those two teams, it's just a different level. It's not even a shootout with the Lions or the Rams. We went into those games thinking, if it's a shootout, we got this because we got Josh. How they gonna stop him, right? But that's different from, man, you stepping into a whole different atmosphere if you walk into KC for an AFC championship game and you think you just gonna stomp all over them boys. Or if you think you're gonna go against the 2024 Eagles roster and you're gonna be able to compete with Xavier Worthy and a old and busted Travis Kelce at that point, you think you're gonna be able to put up points on that defense? That's a different level you stepping into. They don't talk about us like that nationally. We think that because we have Sean telling us if you combine third and fourth down, we were good at stopping the run. That's not enough. It's not enough. That gets old. Man, it gets old. All right, we got a minute left.
I think they were 50%, and Cole made the big play, and we made a big stop on our defense made a big stop in the 2-point play, which is a big play for us. There's some other things we got to get shored up though, which is what you're alluding to.
We're a quarter through the season. How do you think Bobby Babich has done?
I think he's done a good job. He continues to adjust. We're integrating, as was already asked about, with some young players there, some rookies, and they're growing. Like I said, it's continuing to have a vision and chase the vision every week and try and get better at each position and try and get better overall as a defense in this case.
With Joshua Palmer, we've seen his snaps kind of go down since the first week of the season. Is he dealing with something? Is that a coaching decision?
Yeah, coaching decision. Yeah, so it's just based on not necessarily maybe the game plan, but how the games got played yesterday a little bit with respect to what was working, what wasn't working, and Josh is a good player, and we have a lot of confidence in him. Guys, good? All right, thank you, guys.
Wait, so okay, so he said coaching decision, and first and foremost, let me get to my folk that's in here. Beth, what's going on? I haven't said what's up to you yet. Jeff B, what's going on? Who else we got? Steve is in the house. What's going on, Steve? I will get to these comments in 2 seconds, right? So this idea of this thing being a coaching decision to not have Josh have the same kind of numbers that he had in game one. I don't even think that's something he should have taken credit for. Not that he was taking credit like he, we need to thank him for making those decisions, but for him to put it on himself that's why Josh didn't get the same kind of numbers. I mean, Josh's numbers have been pedestrian for the last 3 weeks. So, and I guess relative to the last 3 weeks in game one, it was a necessity in order to come back from down 15. So it makes more sense logically if we approach this situation like Josh got the numbers for the same reason that Coleman got the numbers. Because realistically, Coleman's numbers ain't been the same since week one either. Right? But we asked the question the way we did. And that opened the door for Sean to say, no, that was a coaching decision. That's a scapegoat answer. When it comes to those types of questions, you got to ask the question the way the previous guy asked about the run game. Like, how do you explain not having as many tackles for loss as you did last season? How do you explain that? Don't give him the out of was that a coaching decision, or was that, somebody, distracting you guys during practice? Like, don't give him an out built into the question. That's being too nice. Make him answer the question. The answer should be Josh Palmer is not getting the numbers because we don't need him to get the numbers right now. That's really what it comes down to. You know what I'm saying? Like, we needed it in week 1. We didn't need it yesterday to beat the Saints, or 2 days ago to beat the Saints. It is what it is. What you want me to say? We don't have to do much to score 30 against these boys, and it's gonna be like that all season. I'll be here all season. Like, just say that. You know what I'm saying? Beth says, agreed, Aramis. I think he might be saving it for the playoffs, to be honest. We also, aside from week 1, have not needed to use Super Allen, the alien, to win every game. Yeah, I mean, Lynn is talking to Steve. All right, let me see if I got any questions in here. Wait. Nate, you said something about you're not in the building. Of course. Of course. I'm not in the building. Oh dang. 200 bones on a rivalry jersey, man. That's love. That's love. That's what love is supposed to do. Let me see. Spin says, cancel the welfare check. Aramis is back to his old stuff. Sorry. I mean, look, again, as you've seen now, I will give credit where credit is due. This has probably been one of the best press conferences Sean has had so far this season. He was so authentic in some of those really good questions about aspects of the team that he was willing to open up and be transparent about. And he was, right? I didn't see any signs of deception at all. He wasn't trying to self-soothe. He wasn't trying to, divert attention. He wasn't trying to subvert the question and just give a basic answer. He did good. It was just really that one big moment in the beginning where, he had the gulp and he had the static stare, and then he shut the window on the guy. And then, like, the long blink where he just kind of, closes his eyes. I don't want to look at you, or I don't want you to see my eyes. And then look, opens up to look somewhere else. That part. And then towards the end there, where he's kind of being a little condescending on the next gen stats question about, tackles for loss. Those are the only 2 instances where I saw anything where it was just like, what, you didn't need to do that. Like, what are you, why are you taking offense, or what's the issue? Like, where's this deceptive behavior coming from? Right. But again, I really do think this is one of his better press conferences. Nate trying to help us get out of here on time. All right. It is 9:19. Let me get to this question here. Steve says, what's your solution to fix this defense? Coaching or make a trade? So I said this a little bit earlier in the show. I'm not sure if I was clear on the specific answer, but I think it really comes down to the players that you put in the scheme. The answer is going to have to come from the overall capability and athleticism of the players that we draft. The scheme itself is designed with a flaw in it, right? It built into the scheme is the idea that we want to funnel the run to the middle of the defense, where statistically it's less likely that a team will break off big runs. And I think that we have seen teams are not, aside from Derrick Henry, a lot of teams are not busting off, 60-yard runs to the house, 70-yard runs to the house, 50-yard runs to the house. We'll have like that one game a season where we see something like that against a good running back and a good offensive line. But for the most part, We just have a bunch of teams during the regular season averaging over 5 yards a carry on us, and so, or I shouldn't say over 5 yards. We looked at the stats earlier. It's over 4 for sure. It was when we had the number one defense, it was 4.2 yards per carry. Actually, let's go back to that and let's see where we were last year compared to the number one defense. Let's go to 2024. Defensively, the Bills were giving up 4.5 yards per carry. Remember, the number one defense in 2021, ranked number one overall, we only gave up like 1,866 yards. Last year, we gave up 1,963, right? We gave up 13 touchdowns in 2024, as opposed to, the Bills gave up more in 2021, actually. So we gave up less rushing touchdowns last year. But I mean, the pass game was bad too, so that might have had that might have had something to do with it too. We had 3 rushes in 2024 of 40 plus yards. We had 11 rushes of 20 plus yards, and we gave up 109 first downs. Right, so in 2021, we only gave up, not that different, 108 first down rushes in 2021 versus last year for us. If I'm not mistaken, the difference of 40 plus yard runs from last year to 2021, when we had the number one overall defense, was a difference of one more 40 plus yard run in 2021 when we had the number one defense, right? We also had one more rush of 20 plus yards in 2021 when we had the number one defense. The issue here is the scheme. I mean, that should tell you clearly right there. The issue is not the players, it's the scheme. It like, these players could try all they want. They are not being put in the positions to stop the run the way that it needs to be stopped in order to force long third and down, however you say that, third down and distance. I mean, that's so fixing that though. Again, my point is, if they're going to keep the scheme, they need to get players like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. They need to get those types of players that are just dominant at what they do, and let those boys go play in the scheme. I mean, honestly, when Sean McDermott was in Carolina and he was running that defense during the 2015 season, and they made it to the Super Bowl, he had Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis at linebacker. Those two names alone at linebacker running the show is enough. Right, and then you throw into that, I got Kawan Short on the line. I got a young first round. I don't think it was first round pick, but I got Coney Ely at defensive end, at young athletic defensive end, getting pressures, making plays. Right. I got who else did he have? I think he had a young Star Lotulelei at that point too. So he had a defensive line, he had linebackers, and he had Josh Norman on that team as well. Right, so he had a corner that was elite in that system. He had 9 interceptions that year when they went to the Super Bowl. 9. So it's the Jimmies and the Joes. That's for this scheme, because not every defensive scheme is like that. But for this one in particular, in order for it to be fixed, the caliber of players needs to be better than what it is. That's just the bottom line. I don't think there's any way around that. It's if you look at the decline of the pass offense or the pass defense, that happened when we lost Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. If the scheme was strong enough, the safeties would have been able to step in and have similar success like what all of the corners that we've had have been able to step in and have, right? But we didn't, at the safety position, we didn't get the Christian Benfords and the Levi Wallaces and the Dane Jacksons and the Dorian Strongs and the whoever else, right? We didn't get these guys that could just step in and be fine right away. No, the safety position is different, right? You want that position to be better, you need better players. Period. That's how you fix that. No, actually, Julius Peppers was not on that team in 2015. He had already left. I think he played like 2 more seasons with somebody else. I forget where he went, but he was not on that team. Yeah. So let me just see if there's any more questions here. I don't want to feel like I ignored anybody's questions. I can ignore comments, but not questions. Okay. All right. It's 9:26. I think this is the perfect time to get out of here. Hopefully this is reset already. Where is this at? I'm feeling super blessed right now. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Post Podium Conversations. I was hoping we can get to more than Sean McDermott, but it seems as though that will probably be what it is going forward. An hour is probably not enough time to get to what we want to get to, unless I'm just not talking and not reading comments and stuff like that. And I'm not about to stop reading comments. So, what happened to an hour? I know we got to an hour and a half because you wanted to make comments. I mean, you gotta listen to the beat, Jeff. You gotta listen to the beat. You gotta feel that kick and that snare. You know what I'm saying? Get you jumping. Yes, no, your fault specifically, Spin. It's your fault specifically. I'm kidding. Hey, I can be on time, but I can't end on time. I can be on time, but I can't end on time. I know. I'm really not blaming nobody. I'm enjoying being here. I'm enjoying doing this with y'all. So I don't even think it's an issue at all what time we get out of here. I just wanted to try and keep it, down to a reasonable time, because when people see 2 hours, sometimes that might turn them off. And I was trying to have this be a different form of content that, they can consume that might be a little shorter than, just a regular show. But I mean, for those of you that are tuning in, if you want to go to the full 2 hours, we can do the 2 hours. I'm doing this for y'all. You know what I'm saying? I enjoy doing this. Yeah, it's part of this is for me, but I know, Spin. I know you're just here to give me hell. But again, from the bottom of my heart, seriously though, thank every last one of y'all for tuning in. It's been so great doing this, and hopefully we can continue to grow what we're doing here, and hopefully I'll get better at what I'm doing and stop pissing all of you guys off. So with that being said, it's another episode of Post Podium Conversations. I am Aramis, and I am also out. Peace. Go Bills.